Hi everyone. This is my second video today because it's a heavy day, and not just because I'm still coming to terms with the fact that that man is in power in the US, but also because I've had some very heavy discussions this week, and they left me in quite a state today. So today I engaged in what felt like a shouting match with a man, and some of it had to do with cultural differences, and I guess some of it also had to do with the fact that I am slowly but surely, and not so slowly anymore, becoming radicalized in my feminism to a point where I'm thinking if I die, I die. I remember having a conversation with someone about Black Tuesday, should be the 26th of June 2024, when there were demonstrations in Kenya, and our current president had the police use live ammunition on peacefully demonstrating Kenyans, young people, children, on the streets of Kenya, like in the capital, like places I still remember walking, like streets I remember walking along when I was home, and like literally in September of 2022, not too long ago. But it feels like forever ago, when the difference between that time and this year, June, is that the streets of Nairobi became a place where young people were shot at and killed in cold blood. So there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of grief here. And this is, let me attempt to break it down. There's a certain kind of grief that a person goes through when they lose a relationship. So, I mean, you all are aware that I have been grieving the end of my long-term relationship, right? Very normal. We've heard people say that the end of a long-term relationship, divorce feels like death. There's now, it's like we even needed to go and do research to confirm that divorce does hurt like losing a loved one. And I remember someone on social media saying, and I don't remember who, but it's a sort of perpetual death. I think it was Michael Todd, because I was a huge fan of his relationship goals series, and I used it for sex education in a Christian context back when I was a chaplain, working with teenagers, like high school goers who, identify as Christian, not just Christian, but Seventh-day Adventist Christians. And something that he said was really profound. He said, you could have been married to someone and then you got divorced, and then you guys don't see each other for like a decade or so, but then you walk into a room that they're in and you see them and it jacks you up. And I mean, of course, at the time you hear him say that, it's funny until it's your life story, and then it's not funny. And then later it becomes funny again when you sort of recovered. Because my relationship ended roughly 6 months ago. And so I've been going through a very interesting kind of grief. I did not want to be in a monogamous relationship again. In fact, my intention had been to just go through the rotation, and then very, very quickly, like I did after our other major breakup in 2016, like get under someone to get over him, and then, or start to get over him, and then like stop having sex altogether. because I tell women this because I remember one of my besties telling me, one of my closest friends, she doesn't like the term bestie. Um, she told me sex is expensive. Like she actually expressed it as sex is so effing expensive. And it's true. It's expensive for our emotional well-being. It literally saps energy from you. I don't know what you believe or what you ascribe to, but like every woman I know, atheist, agnostic, Christian, or Muslim, has told me they can relate to that, like how much energy it takes out of you to be in a sexual relationship with someone, casually or otherwise. And so, fling ends, and then we start like renegotiating terms. And one of the things that we agree on is like, this is ethical non-monogamy. I know you're with other people. What you do with them is your business, as long as like I am safe. But are we ever really safe? Because HPV is found everywhere in that region. When you're having sex with a man, it's not, condoms don't keep you 100% safe. So I started to rethink that decision. I was like, man, sex is just so expensive, like emotionally. Oh, and beyond a certain age, especially like if you're 30, for some, they're early 30s, for some in the mid to late 30s, your estrogen drops. So you start having vaginal dryness. Worse still if you are on the pill because you had fibroids and they were trying to manage them that way, and the pill made your depression worse. So you got off the pill because you're like, why am I on the pill anyway? I'm not in a committed relationship anymore. And I do not like semen. So yeah, back to the condoms, because plus I was on the pill mostly for the myomas, the fibroids, not really as birth control, because just condoms work. If you have a reasonable partner, he gets it, I think. I think no reasonable man will ever make a woman or ask a woman to get on birth control, knowing what we know about birth control. You just won't make a woman get an implant and make a woman get get on the pill knowing it will mess her mental health, or get on Depo-Provera and it causes her to double or triple her weight. Just yeah, if you're just a decent human being, you won't do that. But how many decent human beings do I know who are men? I don't know. Not many. So so I've been going through this grief, yeah. And so it came in phases. So then after that, it was the loss of the place I had in Leipzig, because I was made to move out very suddenly and very crudely. And then after that, it was the trigger of being homeless. Like I didn't have a fixed address, and I also didn't have a place to call my own. And then I hate living at the mercy of people, kind or generous as these people may be. It's not your home. So you tiptoe and you're worried that you're pissing them off with your presence. And so you go out for long walks and you come back and you try and make yourself scarce and you try and make yourself small. And then finally you get a place, and then that place comes with strings attached. And then you're like, look, I need to set boundaries. I need to set boundaries. But then the issue isn't that you lack the ability to have a conversation with someone and tell them, I would rather you do not come to my house ever, for any reason, really, other than that I don't know, you've been told that you're dying and you need to tell someone. Although I would hope you have someone to tell other than me, because we just met. Um, and one of the things that I'm also starting to accept is I just don't needlessly volunteer myself to carry the pain of men. Women, I'm more willing. Men, not so much. And women, not all of them. I'm starting to reward loyalty, because relationships are an investment. So depending on who has invested how much, it's a lot like an election campaign. Whoever has given the most money gets the most benefits when I get into power, right? Um, and so like the other thing I've been grieving has also been like that loss of ability to just function well. And so when I moved to this place, this house, this room, there was this deep exhale. And And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I just had a rough couple of weeks. And I've been struggling with school. I've been struggling with my master's thesis. I really beat myself up when I don't meet deadlines. And I'd set some personal deadlines to meet with the thesis. And then that doesn't happen. So, of course, RSD kicks in, all those intrusive thoughts. So just, it's rejection sensitivity dysphoria. I mean, yes, that's the word I was going to say, syndrome, and that's not it. So it's that, but it's also when you're a high achieving individual, when you don't achieve, you give yourself a very hard time. So I'd given myself up until like November to have gotten to a certain place with my thesis. Now to get to November and not even have gotten to a tenth of what I wanted to accomplish. So I called myself to a meeting this week, and I changed up some rules. There are things I've been saying like I couldn't, I shouldn't, I would never, and I stopped. So like with some of them are personal and I don't want to share, maybe not at this moment, but some of them are the ones I'd like to share about have to do with finally accepting. And accepting is very often, for very many of us, calling yourself to a meeting, because Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I offer coaching services. I'm a nutrition and health coach. And why I say coach and not nutritionist is because I trained as a nutritionist, but then I became the sort of person who listens for all the other things that you're not saying. And I like to assess a person's willingness to follow through on the goals that they've set for themselves, and some of the goals they don't think they need to set that they may need to. Because this is the thing, sometimes you come and see a nutritionist because you think, I just need to lose weight. And then I listen to you talk and you're saying, my husband and my boyfriend and my sister and my mom, they've been talking about my weight. And even my doctor has said my weight is a problem. And then I hear none of the things I'm waiting to hear about why this weight is so problematic. And so, I'm like, yeah, okay, so what do you think? I'm like, well, I do think I should lose it, but like, as my mom said, like, I don't have to lose too much. And like, even my hubby says he thinks I really look good. I just need to lose like 5 kilos. So I guess like, so maybe mom said 7, and then husband said 5. And then so she comes with this random number, like the average of the two, which is like 6. And I listen and listen, and this is just me creating a hypothetical situation, but this has actually happened, where someone comes in with the entire family in their mouth. Like when they open their mouth to speak, they're literally saying what mom said, what husband said, what sister said, what best friend said, what doctor said, none of what they want. And then you ask them, what do you want? And they pause and they're like, and they don't have the words to articulate, or they do, and they're choking on them, because sometimes what they're really choking on is not the words, it's the shock or the heaviness of having gone through all these opinionated people to finally arrive at someone who is asking them, what do you want? Let's work out what you want. And to be seen after feeling like you're not seen for a very long time is such a bittersweet experience. So I have to use this as an example because it's the one I know. In a romantic partnership, familiarity does breed contempt. This is just based off of my experience. I am not the mother of all knowledge. When you stop trying, I was going to rhyme, you start dying. Yeah, so it's they've been named, I think, by the Gottmans, because yes, they must be the Gottmans, the ones who've run the longest existing study on relationships, like romantic relationships, like, yeah. So, and they've named the four horsemen. I don't remember all of them, but I remember contempt because, oh God, this hit home the first time I heard it. And they're talking about bids. So bids are you making an attempt to connect with someone over something that means something to you, and that person rejects the bid. It's what I joke about when I say I extended an olive branch to this person, and instead of reaching for it, they either reached for it and smacked me with it, or they just threw it in my face, like they hit me with it in my face. That's usually a very violent way of saying someone did not accept my bid, especially like in that particular circumstance. I'm talking about if I have apologized for something I did wrong that has offended someone or hurt them, and I see the error of my ways and I have come to repent because I am a sinner and I am in need of grace. So in this particular case, a bid, let me give an example, is literally, and I think Diary of a CEO addresses it, like he gave this, the host of the show, I forget his name, gives such an interesting example. He was like, the way very many of us, let me use this particular one because I think Esther Perel actually addressed it in another podcast and I love her. Your partner sends you a video clip of something that they find really insightful or interesting, and they watch you watch endless hours of TV, but you never open the links that they share with you, which they have intentionally made sure are like 30 to 60 seconds long. I knew I could never send my ex like an hour-long clip to listen to about relationships or about emotional labor. I just thought like there's no way he'll watch this. So I used to look for really short clips. So contempt is when someone makes that attempt to connect with you over something that's important to you as plural, as a relationship, as a unit, but then you're like, or to you as a person. If I love crocheting and I see this beautiful new pattern and I'm giving it a try, and my partner comes home after a long day and I'm like, oh my God, look at what I made. And he doesn't bother to look up from his phone, or he looks up for a second and he's like, oh, cool. New thing. And he's walking to the loo. He's not really paying attention. Ladies, we know what this feels like. And then you wind up feeling very damp, like your spirits are just dampened because you were probably waiting to show this person this thing that you've accomplished that you're really, really proud of because it's important to you. That's what I mean by contempt. At least that's what the Gottmans mean by contempt. And those are the examples I could come up with. As someone who doesn't even crochet, I don't know where that came from, but I know it's a hyperfixation loading. So I remember when I started to notice that the things that were important to me were almost a nuisance to my ex. And then I also remember when a very close friend of over 10 years was really struggling to make time to meet up. And I remember thinking it must be me. I just normally, I think I must be the problem. Like I'm one of those people who's not, I know I'm pretty awesome, by the way, I have no doubts about that. But I also reserve that there's a part of me that feels, yeah, but I'm not jollof rice. I'm not for everyone. I mean, I'm not saying everyone loves jollof rice, but you know what I mean. I won't make everyone happy. So not salted caramel, although there are people who don't like the salt and sugar thing. I am one of them, but somehow salted caramel ice cream is just, mwah, it makes me happy. You guys know what I mean, right? I have this roundabout way of saying the same thing because I am a teacher or educator, and so I say things by repetition or using different examples. So when I made bids to salvage this friendship, I could see this friendship was dying. My heart was breaking. In fact, if I were to compare the pain I've gone through in my breakup with my partner of 11 years and that friendship of a longer time, I grieved that friendship harder. Like when I say harder, I mean I felt it in my soul. It hurt so deeply. it still hurts to this day. And even when this person's name comes up, there's a part of me that just feels this like panic. It's like you're bracing yourself for pain. And I remember when someone said something like, oh yeah, we should, link up with them when you come to Kenya. I was like, no, I don't think so. And it's not because I don't care for this person, it's because I care too much. And I wonder whether how much I care is suffocating to them. Because I got issues with intimacy, which I'm sure you've gathered by now. Funny side story. Each of the lovers I've taken from when I started doing this, like in 2016, has to some degree, including my close guy friends, who would be termed as my besties, Mark, Tony. Tony is actually my closest friend from childhood. Mark was my really good friend for a long time. Well, not a long time, for a couple of years. Then usually for me, if a man meets a significant person, significant enough for me to go, he's serious about her, I pull away. I just, on principle, because I don't want to be that chick who makes the other woman wonder. So, and I love. In spite of the way I feel about men, I genuinely am happy for them when they meet a nice person and they're nice to this person. And I've had some incredible men in my life. So, men have complained that I have intimacy issues. They will actually complain about my having trouble with cuddling. I've met one other woman who's like me. She was like, what is it for? And I remember going like, oh sis, you get it. Like, what is it for? Yeah, I'm one of those people who after we've been intimate, I really want to take a shower and move on to other things. Sometimes I get this creative burst of energy and I just want to sit on my laptop and work for hours and don't talk to me, don't look at me, don't go like, hey, what are you up to? Just literally don't exist. Which is why, as a rule, my preference had always been and this has to be someone I know well, because I've had a handful of people I've engaged with intimately, sexually intimately is what I mean. And I'd rather we go to your place or we go to a hotel, and then when we're done, you can actually sleep at the hotel. You don't have to worry about checkout or anything with me. And I'll wake up. I'll shower, I'll finish, and I'll go home because I love to sleep in my bed. Men of different cultures have actually complained about this. So I know I am the problem. So when I say I have intimacy issues, I'm actually serious that I have intimacy issues. But that also brings us back to the whole grief thing. A lot of what I'm grieving is the realization that I am a mess. I really struggle with intimacy. One of the things that has come up in therapy, and at this point I've just paused therapy because I'm like, I just leave me alone, stop trying to change who I am fundamentally. But it's also because my therapist and I have differences of opinion on things, and I'm not afraid to challenge things that I don't agree with. And as a radicalized feminist, I am just at that point where I'm like, I remember asking her, but what are men for? If I can learn how to fix the shelf, and if I can, and I have no desire to have kids, and I have a good base, good social support system with my female friends. I've never trusted men to be friends. I don't believe men and women can be friends. Without it getting messy at some point that, someone will develop feelings or someone will. So usually, even when I have friendships with men, I'm usually very, very cautious. And I ideally will be close to a man who would typically not find me attractive. So either he's very traditional, but then no, we wouldn't get along if he was very traditional, would we? No, he's open-minded. He has accepted that I am a problematic woman whom he would never dream of being with. That works. In fact, the men who label me as ideal for a white man, those are the ones I usually wind up being very, my friend Mark would never, given a chance, if I were the last woman on earth. I'm not his body type. I'm not his. The only thing we have in common is the intellectual conversations. But as much as he's a sapiosexual, it's just Mark and I have not talked in so long. I don't remember the last time I talked to Mark. And when we talk, we'll talk. I'll tell him about my sexcapades. He will laugh and go like, I've taught you well. Not that he's a, that kind of person. He's happily married, faithful to his wife as far as I can tell. But that's as far as it goes. Like, even with my friend Abby, we'll have conversations, we'll laugh, and then we'll talk when we talk. And even today when Abby called me, he was like, yeah, you didn't call me back. I'm like, you know me. The minute I tell you I'll call you back and I don't call you back, it's not personal. I probably got into a state of hyperfocus. So Abby helped negotiate. Like, we had a fight with someone he introduced me to, and I put him on speaker and I'm like, yeah, you guys are from the same culture. Like, what is this thing you guys are, like, this man is telling me? And it wasn't so much reporting this man, it was trying to understand, because Ebi speaks Sharonese, like he gets me. And so I thought maybe there's some stuff getting lost in translation. So something that I am also grieving, and this is probably the last thing, it's I am accepting that those fears and anxieties I had about men, like when I say they ain't ish, it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that you are right. It's when I read what very angry, incredibly smart Black feminist women are saying. They're saying we are not surprised by the elections. We really are not. We knew this is what you thought of us and this is how you feel about us. But that doesn't mean we are not sad at the like we are not grieving, or that we are not sad about the confirmation that we were right about how little you think of us. And that's the grief I am carrying today. The realization that someone or a group of people can appear to be aligned to you. And you guys have heard me say this, like, I prefer not to date outside the race, and those who do it, good for them. But then now I'm changing my mind about a lot of things, including that, because sometimes you're faithful to a cause that's not faithful to you, or you uphold culture that doesn't work for you. So, for instance, this friend I lost, so to speak, and not lost through death, but lost through friendship ended, is a very wise person, and she educated me a lot on some of the feminist values I hold. She did research and she taught me how to do research on stuff before I open my mouth to say anything. And I think the other person who's taught me to confirm the thing before I say it, other than Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, is Professor Cummings, my thesis supervisor, and the one who taught me on culture, like intercultural health communication. And one of the things I've learned is to question my biases, my feelings, my thoughts. Like, question everything, look for the evidence. It has to be evidence-based. I don't ascribe to the way we teach research and what is classed as evidence-based, because I believe in lived experiences as well, which may be different from what the science is saying. And especially when I look at my minority issues and marginalized group issues, not everything is captured. We were not in mind at the forefront of the writers of the DSM, for instance, when we were talking about, mental health issues or struggles or the disorders that are named there, as they are updated every so often. My therapist told me it's just this latest DSM that is culturally sensitive. But we know that's just the start, We still have a lot of biases in a lot of things, in the finance sector, in the health sector, in the education sector. And it's not because the system is broken. The system was built that way. It was built to uphold a certain race and class of people over another. It's just, that's the way love goes. That's the way life goes. Not love. Love doesn't do those things. But that's where I'm at with my grief. Yeah. I I'm hearing Eva in my head thinking I should probably end on a good note. Feel your feelings. Don't run away from them. Don't numb them with. It's okay to numb them with a TV series, but don't numb them with a TV series and then the end. Numb them with a TV series when they're too heavy to carry, and then at some point, pause that series and just break down and cry. Break down and cry and realize that you've been loyal to a cause that's never going to be loyal to you. You've loved someone who'll never love you the way you want to be loved. Sometimes it will feel like you've wasted your youth. Sometimes it will feel like you let some really good opportunities pass. For instance, I grieve that a lot with ADHD, like, crap. I was overstimulated, so I couldn't attend an event, or my social anxiety didn't allow me to leave the house so that I'd keep a promise to do something that I'd said I would do. Or I was too overwhelmed to follow up on something I told a client I would do, and so I've asked to postpone either a meeting or sending in a menu on time or invoicing in good time. And it sucks. It sucks because, like with mental health issues, and I have 4, although I suspect that there are 3, 2 mashed into 4, anyway. ADHD present. Anxiety and depression are cousins, and I feel like my depression has lifted, especially after I got off the pill, and especially after I got back into therapy and have been very intentional about following up on the exercises. So what's the other lesson? It's do the work. Most of us who are in therapy, actually everyone I know who is in therapy because of someone else who should have gone and didn't. Could have, but didn't. Many of our parents are refusing to go for therapy because Jesus is enough. Yeah, let's see how that works out for you in the long run. But hang in there. Feel your feelings. Numb them for some time if the pain is too heavy. And hang in there. Hang in there being what? Just be strong, chin up. I sent messages to my loved ones, particularly strong Black women. Check up on strong Black women in the US. And I told them I can't begin to imagine how you feel. I'm an immigrant in Germany just waiting for the axe to fall, because it's always like, oh God, if I break one law, one rule, if I fail to pay one fine, you're just always living on the edge. Oh, and wait, there's every year you're preparing for a visa application process, which ranges from it's not too bad to it's brutal and humiliating how they're asking for your bank statements and what you have been doing this past year for work, or why you don't have pay slips. I don't know. So far, it's been okay, I guess, with just some hitches, which I guess are not as bad as they were at the German embassy in Nairobi, because that place is a crap show. Yeah. And the Austrian one as well was just a crap show. But let's just grieve together today and tomorrow and next week, because I think one of the things that we need to start accepting as one mental health advocate and mental health service provider on social media said, she's a Black woman, an African American living in the US. She said, let this be an opportunity for us to learn how to unpack our grief in a healthy fashion. Let's not get into the alcohol. Let's not get into the mindless TV watching. Let's turn off social media for some time. Let's unmask. Let's create Black female communities. Let's recognize that we are frustrated by certain Black people who are in support of the weirdo who's now the head of the so-called free world. But let's find solace in each other. We are stronger together. We always have been as Black women. Even when the feminist movement didn't want us to come along, because who wants to be equal with their former maid, right? It's okay to change your mind. I feel the need to say that. Sometimes you hold on to a certain idea and you're like, I will never have kids. And then you get to 39 and you're like, crap, I really, really want a kid. I'm finally financially stable and in a relationship that is healthy, and I want a kid. He was not pressuring me, but he's excited by the prospect. I mean, the thought, it wasn't even a thing we were talking about, but it came up one night and we're like, oh my gosh, maybe we should have a baby. Allow yourself to change your mind. Or if you just got kids and hadn't planned for them and you're like, oh crap. But then you're like, you know what? I want to keep my kid. Or, instead of giving them up for adoption, or because, hey, maybe, my mom came into town and she said, I'll help you. Or suddenly, like, that village I didn't know I had has appeared. Or, yeah, I want to give marriage a second chance. I want to give men a second chance. Look at me. I want to give men a second chance because I'd sworn, oh my God, I will never. And then you're like, I've met some nice guys. They're cute, the chemistry is good and it's bubbly and they're smart and they're interesting, and we are okay, and we have monitoring and evaluation, and you can like your job today and hate it tomorrow and then go like, I really waited to land this job for 6 months, and then you get this job and 3 months in you're thinking, this is not what I signed up for. There are no boundaries. It's a toxic work environment. My manager is scattering my mental health. You're allowed to actually want to leave after 3 months. You're allowed to regret your marriage. You're allowed to regret your divorce. You're allowed to regret your affair. You're allowed to, as someone said, draw up a shopping list while you're being intimate with your partner because you're just too tired to think, and maybe that's the only way that you can participate at the time. Although I kind of find that sticky, but like, I just let people be. Also, people will be what they will be. They will choose to do what they want to do, so let them. I remember telling someone that today, like, so what if someone decides to identify as him, her, and they were assigned female at birth? What is it to you? Let people be. Let people be. You can only control what you can control, and that's how you react and respond to things. And so just be. Give yourself permission to exist in your own skin and as your most authentic self. And if that's not safe to do, find a safe space to be your most authentic self. Hopefully it's not alone in a room at 2 to, I don't know what time it is, between 2 and 3 a.m. But, or maybe that's also okay. And then find some community. Human beings, we are wired for connection with other people, not screens. And make it your life purpose to look for pockets of sunshine. This isn't some toxic positivity shit. This is literally when you've had a crap day, sometimes just lying down and going after you're done crying and ranting. Sometimes, like, and this happened with me and a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, BFF from high school. I was looking at the stew I was heating up and I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for this food. It's winter, it's cold outside, we're in single degree weather. Like, it's 5 degrees tonight, I think. It was last night when I went somewhere. And it's just, sometimes you get out of the biting cold into a warm house and you're like, oh, I'm so grateful I have a warm house. Eva, I did it. I found a positive spin for the end. It took a whole 9 minutes to finally get there, or maybe 4. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Grieve wholesomely, and I hope you go through the process, because the only way through grief is through. You can't go under it or over it or around it. If that feels like a nursery school rhyme or a Sunday school song, I don't know. But keep your head up, okay? Someone is incredibly happy that you're in their lives. Shockingly, even though they don't call you or remember your birthday. Yeah. You matter to someone, so hang in there, okay? Okay? Good.